Hey, what is going on, guys? In this video today, I want to take a look at the current Season 6 meta and what I believe the future of the Season 6 meta is going to hold. Taking a look back at the Season 5 meta, it was really split into two different parts. The beginning of the season was absolutely dominated by the very infamous spray and pray meta, which some people believe was literally the worst state Fortnite has ever been in. This meta was created by Epic eliminating double shotguns, nerfing shotguns as a whole, heavily buffing SMGs, introducing new SMGs, and finally weakening player-built structures. You combined all those gameplay changes together and you ended up with a version of Fortnite where SMGs were simply unbeatable close range and even uncounterable with building. Luckily, this meta was eventually killed about halfway into the season with nerfs to SMGs as a whole and slight buffs to player built structures. The meta for the second half of Season 5 was much less obvious than spray and pray, but many people deemed it the fast travel or quick transportation meta. With things like rifts to go, bouncers, shockwaves, and ATKs, it became way easier to quickly move around and navigate the Fortnite map as a whole. So now that we have a background understanding of the Fortnite meta that led into Season 6, let's break down what the new gameplay / map changes mean for the Season 6 meta specifically. Alright, so the first thing I want to quickly address at the beginning of this video is the general skill level in Fortnite games right now. This doesn't really directly relate to the meta, but at the same time, it's something that you guys should know. The beginning of a new Fortnite season is always going to be the time period where the general skill level of public match lobbies is at its absolute highest point. People always take Fortnite way more serious at the beginning of a new season, and it can be really tough to adjust to the new map and gameplay changes, so don't feel bad if you're struggling with Fortnite right now. So let's start breaking down how some of the changes in the Season 6 update are going to define the Season 6 meta as a whole. So now that I've had about 3 to 4 days to play the game since Season 6 was released, the number one change that sticks out to me are the fast movement items that were either removed or altered. Epic removed both bouncers and impulse grenades from the game altogether, while also nerfing rifts and grapplers. Now, a lot of people probably aren't even aware that a good chunk of the rifts in Fortnite were removed at the beginning of Season 6, so I'll actually throw on the screen right now an image of the rift location in Season 5 versus the rift locations now at the beginning of Season 6. As you guys can see, there are a lot less rifts in general, but specifically the changes occurred most near the middle of the map. So that is definitely some really important information to know going forward. The rift changes are huge, but I think the removal of bouncers may be even bigger when it comes to changing the meta. Now, I absolutely loved bouncers. I thought they were really fun to use and helpful in a lot of situations, but even though I may not agree with it, I think I see why Epic removed them. With spray and pray no longer an option, and with C4 also now being vaulted at the beginning of Season 6, it started to swing the pendulum back to the days of Seasons 2, 3, and 4, where building to the sky was almost impossible to counter. Bouncers were huge for crazy high build fights because you could go 30 levels into the sky, yet disengage within a second with no risk of fall damage. By removing bouncers, Epic clearly wants to make it so that you have to build smarter. You can't just spam to the sky with no fear of consequence because you have a bouncer in your inventory. So I think that's going to be a really big theme for the build battle meta in Season 6 as a whole. The sad part about that is that bouncers had a lot of other really awesome uses that I didn't think were overpowered at all. Things like using them to rotate to safe zones at the end of a game, using them to push enemies, using them to get high ground on an enemy. I think a fair fix would be to reintroduce them at a higher rarity, or keep them the same rarity but have them take up an inventory spot. But I think in general, all of these changes to fast movement based items were done by Epic simply to spice the game up a bit. There's still a ton of awesome fast travel items, but I think these changes were just so things didn't get out of hand. So the next thing I want to discuss is how close quarters combat is going to be different in Season 6 compared to really any other season in Fortnite history. So the changes that are important to know here is that the silenced SMG was vaulted, the LMG was vaulted, and the double barrel shotgun was heavily nerfed. And also don't forget the drum gun was also vaulted right before the beginning of Season 6. Based on my experience with close quarter combat so far in Season 6, if I had to describe the close range meta in one word, it would be bland or boring. I think Epic's motivation for these changes were actually really smart. They wanted to do as much as possible to prevent spray and pray from ever being the close range meta again. The problem is, I think they went a little overboard with it. The LMG and silenced SMG were both weapons that obviously are at their best in close range spray situations, but I don't really think they were overpowered at all. Now that they've been vaulted, it leaves us with a very limited choice of close range options. I honestly think you only have a total of 4 truly viable close range weapon combinations. Pump and compact SMG, pump and normal SMG, heavy and compact SMG, and finally heavy and normal SMG. Obviously, you could always go a bit off meta with something like the tac shotgun or dual pistols in place of an SMG, but with those weapons and weapon combinations, I feel like you're putting yourself at a pretty considerable disadvantage. Also, the spray and pray meta was so horrible, so please don't think I'm speaking in favor of it at all, but the one thing it did have was some really good close range variety. You had the normal SMG, silenced SMG, compact SMG, and drum gun, which were all so overpowered in their own way that you could really use any of them and not be at any kind of disadvantage. So I get definitely why Epic made the changes that they did, and I still absolutely love the removal of the drum gun and the nerf of the double barrel shotgun. I actually have 2 potential solutions to fix this bland close range meta as a whole. First, an SMG being added into the game. I think they went overboard with adding SMGs in Season 5, but now that the drum gun and silenced SMG are gone, I really think we're in need of a replacement. My second potential solution is a buff to the pistols in Fortnite. I honestly don't think any of the pistols have ever legitimately been in the meta in the history of Fortnite. I would love to see a buff to the pistols as a whole to make them viable options when either paired with a shotgun or even simply when used alone. I think both of those changes would do a good job to spice up the close range meta while also making it still very balanced at the same time. The final change I want to quickly discuss before giving my final verdict on the Season 6 meta as a whole are the new corrupted zones on the map and the shadow stones inside of them. That was something I was incredibly surprised by with the introduction of Season 6, the fact that the map really didn't change all that much. Obviously, Loot Lake is way different now, and there were a few other alterations made to certain parts of the map, but there were no new towns added to the game, and not a single town was even renamed. But getting back to the shadow stones and the cursed areas, I've heard a lot of concern that these may end up being overpowered. In my experience with them, I really don't think that's going to be the case. You can't fire when in shadow mode, it only lasts for 45 seconds total, and once you exit shadow mode, it makes a pretty loud noise, and there's also about a 1 to 2 second delay before you can shoot at all. So I think it definitely does have some cool situational uses, and it'll be interesting to see how it's used, especially at the top competitive level, but I don't really think it's going to be meta defining at all. So in general, the gameplay changes contained in Season 6 definitely weren't as impactful to the meta as the changes we saw at the beginning of Season 5. I know we're only 3 days in, so this is definitely subject to change, but my best guess is that this part of the Season 6 meta will be referred to as the third-party meta. This is very similar to the end of the Season 5 meta, and here's my explanation for why it will carry over into Season 6. Now that all the overpowered close-range weapons are either gone or fairly balanced, it's very difficult to get quick eliminations, especially on organized teams. This leads to way more long, drawn-out build battles, which also leads to many more third-party opportunities for enemies. Even though Epic removes some fast travel items, there's still plenty of powerful options, such as the newly nerfed grapplers, rifts to go, and shockwave grenades that still make it really easy to quickly engage teams. Plus, with the removal of bouncers, these long drawn out build battles are also going to be incredibly difficult to disengage from, which gives every advantage in the world to the third partying team. Plus, with the skill level of public matches being at a seemingly all-time high right now, that means that the majority of players know the value of third-partying fights. I can personally attest to all of this. It seems like anytime you engage in a fight in Season 6, you better be ready to deal with 2 to 3 teams at the same time. So that's going to wrap it up for this video today. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you watched the entire thing, be sure to leave me a comment down in the comment section below. How are you guys liking Season 6 so far? Do you really like it? Are you undecided? Are you not really a fan? I really want to hear from you guys, so leave me a comment down in the comment section below. Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, do whatever the heck you want, and I will catch you guys next time.